If as a professional, you're asking the question, how do I get more referrals? You're asking the wrong question. Instead, you should be asking, from whom should I be getting referrals from? By asking that simple question, it will open up a world of opportunity for you in the form of other professionals referring you clients on the regular. You see, right now, there are clients in other industries who are having conversations with their clients and uncovering the fact that they are going to need your profession next. And if you do this right, beginning with asking the right questions, you're going to have a gravy train of opportunity headed your way. As you may be able to tell, I've read a lot of books in my time. You see an entire bookshelf over there. I love to read. I love to learn. And one of the books that it's had the most impact upon me was written by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, co-authored by Dan Sullivan, founder of Strategic Coach. The book is Who, Not How. Now, in that book, for me, I realized that while I've been contemplating how to get things done better, how to grow a business better, how to more deeply impact my clients, it really came down to not how to do all those things, but whom should I be in business with? Who should I be learning from? Who should I have around me that could help unlock the answer to those exact same questions? You see, in that book, the big aha for me is that it's not about a game of addition, of how do I add this knowledge, that knowledge, like we don't have time for that. The pace at which the world is moving right now, we have to grow and add, not through addition, but through multiplication. And when you start to think in the who's rather than the how's, everything changes. For me, that was the case. I realized that someone else out there had spent their entire life crafting, their professional life, crafting a particular skill set, really getting good at something. Now, I could try and learn little bits of that over time, but in reality, I just needed to attract that person into my world so that their specialty and my specialty could come together and create tremendous opportunities. This principle stands so true when it comes to getting referrals into your business. All too often, we're asking that question, how, when the question should be who. So then who are the professionals that you should surround yourself with in order to get further faster? Well, the first question you should be asking is, who am I? Once we identify where we are positioned in the marketplace, when it comes to price point, are we above the midline on price or are we below the midline on price? When it comes to relational versus transactional, are we more relational or are we more transactional? You could create, which we have at ProInsight, a 16 quadrant matrix, right? The very top of that quadrant, number 1, is highest touch, highest relationship, and highest price. The lowest, the bottom, number 16, is the lowest price and the most transactional, okay, or the least relational, okay? And each box in between this matrix allows you to identify 1 through 16 where you're at. Now, most professionals that we serve at ProInsight, they're above the midline on price. They're not the cheapest in town, okay? And they're also more to the relational side. So they fit somewhere between a 5 and a 6 on this matrix. By you knowing exactly where you're at, you can begin to identify other professionals that are similar to you. Once you know who you are, now you can begin to ask yourself, who are the other professionals who serve my same clients from different industries? So for example, you may be a real estate agent and you're asking yourself, who is a lender who serves the same kinds of clients that I do? Now, if you're a luxury real estate agent, having a lender who serves higher net worth clients would be an appropriate alignment. That's one great example. And once you find the professionals who serve your same ideal clients and serve them in a similar way, keep in mind, it's not enough to serve the same people, the same clientele. You need to serve them in the same way. In other words, the client experience looks and feels similar. Because if you have that, now it becomes very easy for you to align with these other professionals, and the clients appreciate going from one client experience that they really appreciate and enjoy to another one that's very similar in the next industry. You're doing the clients a huge service, whereas you're doing them a great disservice if you're sending them off into the wild to go find the next professional that they may or may not have a good experience with. Now, the mistake, I gotta warn you, the mistake that many professionals make when they find a professional in a different industry who's complementary to them, who serves similar clients in similar ways, is they get too excited and they just come in with their hand out, excited to get referrals. And I'll tell you, if you come in to get, you're going to leave with not much. Whereas if you come to give, to truly give value to that professional and then to their clients, you'll find yourself walking out with more business than you know what to do with. Now, you might be asking, well, how do I know what kind of value I should be giving them? Like, should I just Google it or try and guess and decide? No, it's very simple. It's just to have a conversation. And all too often, professionals will come in and they'll spend the whole time talking about themselves. Now, it might be appropriate, of course, to introduce yourself, but take control of the conversation and be very inquisitive, very curious to know where that particular professional is at in their business now. Tell me more about your business. Tell me how you serve your clients. And then ask them, what would be a win 1 year from now? If we got to the end of this year and you were celebrating a tremendously successful year, what would that look like? What are you really set to and aim to achieve right now in your business? Once you have that information, you can then ask this very simple question of, what's your plan to get there? Talk to me about what it looks like for you and your team, you and your organization, to go from where you're at to where you're celebrating at the end of the year. And then the follow-up question to that is, what challenges might you encounter along that journey that might keep you from getting from A to B? What do you foresee could be some landmines, some areas of weakness, some threats that are coming your way that you feel like you want to be sure and navigate around? Now, if you ask those questions in a very natural way, you'll find that they've opened up the doorways for you to be able to serve them in meaningful ways. Because now they've told you, they've pre-scripted it for you what they're looking for. And then simply ask the question, if I feel like I can give value to those particular things you've talked about, it would be okay if I stayed in contact with you, right? That conversation right there alone will differentiate you from everybody else in town. Most times, professionals don't care. They drop off their business cards and say, hey, oh, by the way, right? Think of me when you have a referral. I'm never too busy for your referrals, right? That's nice, that's cute, but it's not very helpful, right? It's actually asking in a very kind, polite way, but it's not actually giving value. You want to come in to give value. And again, that strategy that I shared can work very well for your consumer clients, but when you're working B2B, in other words, when you're creating strategic alliances with the professionals, it's not that helpful, right? It's not that effective. So come in really curious about the business. What makes it tick? How can you help it grow? What can you do to actually help them get to the next level? And you'll find yourself with more opportunity than you would if you just went in looking to get. Now, here's one more trick that I've learned from one of my coaches. He said, actually ask permission to share what your client experience looks like. And here's why. This is after you've really inquired about them. You say, look, I'd love to share with you what my client experience looks like. Now, this might be on the second appointment, might not fit all on the first, okay? But if you could reach out to them again and or set up another appointment, or maybe it all fits into a longer meeting. But say, I want to walk you through my client experience. Number one, so that should we ever have the opportunity to refer one another, you feel very comfortable with how I treat my clients differently than the status quo, right? That's number one. Number two, I want you to tell me at what point I might be able to weave you into my client experience. In other words, at what point might it be appropriate for me to introduce you to my clients? In other words, please train me on how I can introduce my clients to you. What may very well happen if you're working with the right professional is that they will say to you, well, can I do the same? Right? In other words, let's train each other on what it actually looks like to give a meaningful, impactful, appropriate, timely client introduction to you in the appropriate way, right? And it just ends up being a very beautiful synergy between two professionals who, by the way, each have somewhere between oftentimes 300 to 500 relationships that will listen very closely to what they have to say. Now, as we wrap this up, I want to invite you to do something really quickly. I want you to make two lists really quickly. I want you to write down who are the professionals that are already in my professional network. In other words, people around me, I'm like, that person is aligned like me. They serve the same clients as me and they serve them in the same way. Write their names down, right? That's the first. That's the second one is, what professions might I be able to be in need of somebody who's positioned like me? For example, it might be like, I don't know a good estate attorney that works like me. In other words, you're opening up your mind to be able to look for introductions to a professional network that you don't yet have, but that might be valuable to you. So those 2 lists, right? With those 2 lists, you're actually going to reach out to the first list, as I described, like, hey, I'd like to sit down with you. I want to learn more about your business, see how I might be able to contribute to you in the upcoming year and in the upcoming months or years ahead. The second group is you're going to go to them to say, look, I'm looking for ways to introduce a professional from your industry into my client experience. I'd love to learn more about you. I'd love to learn more about your business to see how I might be able to introduce you into my client experience, right? That's a really, coming from a lot of contribution, that's a great way to do it. Now, if you don't know anybody, right, because cold calling into that is not the best scenario, right? So what I would encourage you to think about, right, when it comes to that scenario is go to your very best client. Like if you have that list of additional 5 professionals and you don't know like where to even start, go to your very best clients, the ones who you love, who you feel like have a pretty good, strong professional network, and ask them, say, look, I'm looking for a great estate attorney that I might be able to introduce into my client experience when my clients need one. Do you have a good one that you've worked with in the past? I'm looking to know one. Number one, it's a compliment to your clients because you're telling your clients that, hey, I respect you. I respect your network. Do you know anybody that I should be talking to, right? And people love to give. They love to give in meaningful ways. So if they have one, they'll likely give one. Also, now when you get introduced, ideally via 3-way text message to that estate attorney, let's say, you're now being introduced by one of their clients. Now, the likelihood of them responding versus you reaching out cold is much, much higher. Now you go through the same process that I described before. All said and done, I want you to know that there is some little bits of how that I shared here at the end. But the most important thing, all of that will work out if you come from contribution and if you have the right who. So don't get too caught up on the scripts and everything that I said. It's more important to align yourself with the right who. The right who's get in the room, they figure out the how, right? But if you focus on the how and you don't have the right who's, it's not going to work. So again, go back to the basics of who, not how, and find professionals who already have a relationship with professionals who are just upstream from you. Now, a little plug for my book right there. The Upstream Model teaches these principles, and our platform, ProInsight, it's a digital platform that makes all of this so easy. So if you're interested in learning more about that, there's links in the show notes. ProInsight.com will teach you more. Thank you so much for listening today. I look forward to hearing back from you as to how your referral game is going to the next level by focusing on who, not how. And by the way, if this has been valuable, please share it with a friend and be sure and subscribe and hit the bell notification. We look forward to delivering more value to you as you level up your referral game moving forward.